Monetizing microblogs. Now this is thoughtful. Hello, I'm Trevor Lai in Shanghai. China's leading digital players like Tencent, Sina, Baidu, Alibaba, Youku, and Tudo once coexisted peacefully for the most part by focusing on their core business. Investor demands for expansion have turned friendly rivals into fierce competitors. Microblogs are a key area to watch as advertisers shift budgets into social media. Sina Weibo was the early leader, but Tencent's Weibo is rising fast through aggressive investment. This week on Thoughtful China, we'll look at Tencent's expansion beyond its instant messaging into microblogs and ask agencies how they're using Weibo services as ad platforms. Plus our own PT Black will look at new ways marketers are elbowing into the online conversations. But first, with us is Sophia Ong, National Planning General Manager for Tencent's advertising department. Sophia, how is Tencent's Weibo different from other Weibo services in China?
Tencent Weibo, besides having the quality of new media, but also has the attributes of social media, which is based on the social connection. Then we also have the connecting synergy with all the other well-established Tencent products, such like QQ.com, video, Qzone, and even the music or WAP, so that it can provides a blanket coverage of the user's online behavior.
Yes, well, I mean, Tencent's massive network is well publicized and well established in China, and also the way that it monetizes those other platforms that you mentioned, particularly QQ, etc. But how are you monetizing Weibo as a platform for advertisers?
Right, same as other company. Tencent Weibo is still on its investment stage, so it's kind of too early to talking about turning a profit. But our focus is to improving our user experience and meeting the needs of the growing consumer.
So talk a little bit about how Tencent Weibo has grown over the past year and what you attribute that growth to.
Okay, up to end of Q3 of 2011, we already have 310 million of registered user and surpassed 50 million of daily active user. So we now have the most popular Weibo in the market with the most registered user and active users. This can be attributed to our constant drive to improve our product and user experience, the platform management, celebrity usage, and synergy with other more established Tencent products such like QQ.com or Qzone.
Now, Tencent has grown a lot since it started as an instant messaging service and expanded into video, microblogs, e-commerce, and now obviously Weibo is incredibly important. Weibo gets all the press these days, but from a planning standpoint, do you see Weibo as the most exciting platform that Tencent's working on right now, or are there other products that the consumers perhaps aren't getting as aware about?
Yes, Weibo is a very excited product that we felt, but we also are very proud of our other established products, such like QQ.com. It has been the top portal for some time. Then the video, online video, we just launched last year, but it has been the top ranking players in the market.
Let's talk about Tencent Mind. As you're aware, measurability and return on investment are extremely hot topics, especially in the digital world in China. So how does Tencent Mind help consumers and advertisers really understand each other and look at measurability in a transparent way?
So let me just recap the definition of MIND, Mind. Tencent Mind is our proprietary methodology and theory of the online marketing. M means measurability, I means interaction, N is navigation, and D is differentiation. So if we're talking about focus on the measurability, we just keep we constantly refine our tools and technology to provide more precisely the measurement results for our advertisers.
So when we look at QQ video, do you see a shift from the content moving from originally purchased content to now self-created content by your users or brands, creating more opportunities for advertising?
Tencent Video always want to differentiate ourselves with the content standpoint. So on one hand, we keep secure and buy in the most popular titles of like film, dramas, and all the programs. And on the other hand, we also heavily invest on the self-produced the program from the micro film, micro movie, to the drama, and even we host the contest for recruiting the production, the new blog to keep this creative approach.
Thanks, Sophia. And now PT Black with a thought or two about the best tools for marketers in this changing space.
The rise of social media brings with it a long-delayed wake-up call for brands working in China. Platforms like Weibo represent the first truly earned media vehicle the market here has had to face. This is a country, remember, where press passes come with envelopes of cash and viewership numbers, whether online or off, are self-reported by the very companies obliged to deliver results. But social media is harder to fudge, especially as new regulations push users to register their accounts with real names. Real name registration makes it harder for companies to muddy social media waters with tricks like spam postings, ghost followers, and bogus praise. So brands are facing a new reality and realizing bad habits are hard to break. What to do? Well, the fallback is celebrity. Travel website Elong has leveraged a partnership with 5 popular TV hosts. They act not only as attention grabbers, but as automatic amplification. Through them, Elong can ensure its tweets are seen by tens of millions of fans. But celebrities have limits on the content and quantity of their messaging. Also, they're expensive. So a second route is for brands to partner with social media celebrities. The nature of these partnerships is rarely public, so it's hard to know whether a memorable image or comment is ultimately the work of a clever writer or a backstage brand team. Either way, pictures like this of a Beijing man wearing Durex condoms as galoshes deserve credit for understanding how Weibo really works. That leaves a third option. If brands in China want love from social media, they can do what the rest of the world does. They can earn it. Be fun, be valuable, be relevant, be entertaining. Invest in assets that your audience cares about and build them over time. Sound daunting? Then build partnerships to help you on the way. After all, what would social media be without a few friends?
Thanks, PT. With me now is Scarlett Locke, Head of Digital at TBWA and Tequila in China, Ashok Sethi, Head of Consumer Insights in Rapid Growth and Emerging Markets at TNS, and Lawrence Wan, the former Managing Director of E-Business Solutions at Group M China. We'd like to talk about advertising through social media today. Let's start with Tencent, one of China's giants in this area. Their latest earnings report said that they had earned over $94.5 million, a 50% increase annually. How easy is Tencent to work with?
It's an interesting question. I think, Tencent, as similar to Sina, it's probably a little more open to work with. I think the challenge for a lot of the internet companies in China is the secrecy in terms of numbers, which I think across the board, it's a challenge that as advertisers we deal with.
So their transparency, especially what about compared to Baidu or Sina and Alibaba? How does Tencent sort of stack up?
I mean, from my perspective, I find that in China, it's not so much the media property per se, it's how much you spend with them. So money talks in China. So if we have a lot of money, especially for certain clients who have a lot of leverage with the client, in terms of relationship, we can get the data we want. If we don't, for the most part, you can't get it. So third-party ad tracking or ad serving is not a standard in China. Everyone knows this quite well. Ad tracking actually is increasingly becoming more standard and accepted, but on a client-by-client or agency-by-agency basis. So I find that Tencent, generically speaking, from my perspective, has been slightly better than other portals or other sites, but it's not an outright, it's open to every client, every agency, It is not, from my experience.
And how do they justify that?
I'd like to get SY in here and we can talk about that then.
And do social networking sites, the Renrens of the world, the Kai-Shing Wangs, do you think they'll survive the rise of Weibo? Both Tencent's Weibo as well as Sina's Weibo, or are these two really taking over?
I think they'll definitely survive, and the reason they'll survive is that because they provide very, very different kind of gratifications to the consumers. So there are different consumers who have different needs, and these different kinds of social networking websites and Weibo, they are catering to these different needs.
Can you be more specific? Because you've got a lot of insights in terms of consumers and how they...
Sure. So if you look at the social networking websites, the traditional social networking websites, they're all about friends, they're all about photos. So they're all about sharing, about emotional warmth or bonding with the people that you want to be in a close circle with. But if you're talking about Weibo, you're talking about communicating with a larger audience. You're talking about pursuing certain specific topics, certain specific interests. And you're talking about broadcasting yourself to a certain extent. And our research, Digital Life, shows that China has a very large proportion of what we can possibly term as communicators. So these are people who like to communicate with others, who like to influence others, who like to share their point of view. And Weibo provides them with an ideal platform to do that.
And Scarlett, in your experience, do clients see this distinction the way that Ashok has described it? I mean, do they really differentiate between that, or do they get caught up in the hype and say, well, Weibo is taking off, I gotta be on there?
I think it's more the latter. Most clients tend to want to jump on sort of what's the hottest trend. And I think to Ashok's saying is that there's definitely more than more than one player that can play in China. There's always the next new thing that comes up. I think between Sina Weibo or Learner and Kai-Shing, I actually think that it's going to be a hybrid. I'm really curious to see what is the next hybrid of social network. I think social network in China has really taken off. So it's become its own life. And it'll be interesting to see with mobile, in terms of access with mobile. So whoever leads, I think, dominates the mobile platform will clearly be the leader moving forward.
Looking at the future, what do you think content partnerships will start to look like? I mean, with Tencent or Sina, do you see them actually starting to compete with traditional media like television and things like that in terms of developing content?
From what I see, the answer is absolutely. So if you say specific for TV, it's very clear that the video channels have a new life now digitally. So I mean, obviously when Youku went public and it got valued to some degree more than a lot of established internet properties in the US, it shocked the world. But the reality is, if you do the numbers correctly, if they're going to monetize some of that untouched inventory, if they'll transition a lot of that money from TV, which the reality is from a media agency perspective, we're almost increasingly treating similar the platforms, then it's going to be a whole new game. Now the challenges for a lot of these video sites, whether it's a portal with a video channel or a pure play video site themselves, like a Youku Tudo, is how are they going to survive beyond licensing content that they can get already on TV?
Right, because the fees always tend to follow. Right. So as the viewerships and the money follows, then the fees go up. I mean, we've seen that in the States. Absolutely.
So that's the challenge, is that how are they going to find their own kind of natural, organic or natural digitally own content that isn't kind of taken away from TV content and just repurposed for online use. So that's a challenge.
Research also kind of indicates what could be a possible strategy for internet video content providers to take. For example, our research says that there are as many people who watch user or consumer generated videos as compared to the professionally generated videos. And I think that's the route for internet video providers, because they need to capitalize and ride on this immense creativity which exists among millions of users, and basically to foster and encourage it and help produce content which would be low cost but could possibly still compete with the professionally produced content from the television channels.
Yeah, I think to add to it, it's about quality. I think that's going to be a huge sort of winner when it comes to content. I think China has a lot of content, a lot of information, but a lot of them very quality provided. So I think the winner is going to be, I think video content is going to be huge. It's which advertisers can actually partner with the right portal to really provide the content that's of interest. But again, it's a huge investment.
But when you talk about quality, it's interesting because if you go on YouTube right now and you type in any popular type of search thing, you actually are very likely to get very poor quality results, oftentimes. People trying to sing like Lady Gaga, for example, and they're popping up. So, but part of your point is that there is an audience for this user generation, but it's all mashed together. I mean, how do you guys define quality?
Well, from a media agency perspective, to counter, I agree what you're saying, but I don't agree as well. The reason is because I believe UGC content definitely makes sense, and that's the differentiation for digital, right? Especially for a social media. So if you do that, and we can actually compete against TV, which is obviously large production, but big budgeted content that takes maybe a year to produce, where someone in the room can do it tomorrow, right? And broadcast it right away.
Has anybody done a good job yet in China of measuring the effectiveness of these social media platforms? Or is it still really kind of blurry?
From average creative agency standpoint, I would say it's very blurry. I think because most media publishers are closed in terms of numbers, and we don't have valuable sort of, what Lawrence was referencing, double-click or third-party tracking is not a standard here. So everything is self-reported. So when I look at numbers and when I advise even my clients, when you look at numbers, take it with a grain of salt.
So Lawrence, in your view right now, if you look at all the major players in China, is anyone, as Scarlett mentioned before, starting to take a leadership position in terms of creating a hybrid model where it's not purely video, it's not purely a social networking site, a closed networking site, or even a one-to-many broadcast like on Weibo? Is anyone doing a good job consolidating this?
I think almost everyone's trying to do that job, to be perfectly frank with you. Most of the players like Tencent are the ones who are trying to consolidate everything because they have all the assets across different areas, whereas you have the pure plays just kind of living off of their existence. So whether they're a video site, they're a video site. If you have the SNSs, for the most part, the SNSs are SNSs. They're not trying to become they're adding some Twitter-like or Weibo-like functions, but they're, for the most part, staying still. But what's interesting is that the Weibo players, like for example Sina and Tencent, they're actually picking up more SNS functionality. So for example, a lot of people may have seen the new version of Sina's Weibo. They literally, when they actually come to present it to us, the agency, they'll say, oh, the next version is basically like Facebook. That's exactly the way they use it. I'm like, wow, okay. That's an interesting reference point. Right. So you can see the Weibos are actually trying to kind of take over the world now. Right. So it's almost kind of from the place where small and niche are kind of moving towards the bigger. Yeah. And you have all these big portals who say, okay, we had to catch up with this, like a Tencent. And then say, okay, let's throw in all our resources into it to add more value to it. So who will win? Which will play out better? It's hard to say right now, because everyone's trying to kind of expand and own the space. And this has become a very Chinese phenomenon in media. Right. For a portal, in the US, a portal's a portal. Right? If it's a video site, a Weibo's a Twitter, a Weibo is a Weibo, Microblog is a microblog. Whereas here, it's like everyone does everything. Baidu is not just search engine, right? They have big BBS functions, they have news editorial broadcast rights, they have everything. So I think Tencent is a perfect example with their Weibo. They're trying to put more into it than what exists.
Great. Lawrence, Scarlett, Ashok, thanks for being on Thoughtful China. That wraps it up for today. Be sure to subscribe to us on Tudo and YouTube, and you can also follow us on Weibo and Twitter. We'll see you again.